Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be looking at my budget. Now, if you do come here for the budgeting content, I owe you an apology. I realized that I did not do my budget open for my July to August paycheck. Now, this paycheck was a little bit strange because I actually got paid, if you were here last time, I got paid 2 months salary at the beginning of my last paycheck period, because I go mid-month to mid-month. And that was because we were going on to summer and the school will pay you 2 months and then they'll pay you again when we come back. I'm going back to school, what are we on right now? In about 2.5 weeks. Oh, my heartbreak. Summer has gone fast. About 2.5 weeks, I'm back in school because it's the 2nd of August now. So I'll get a paycheck when? We get paid no later than the 15th, but when exactly it is depends on the day. I'm guessing I'll get paid around the 13th or so. But it means that my budget was actually 2 months budget and it's been a little bit weird. Really, I should have done a setup for you though, because a couple of things did change in this budget and you'll see this in the numbers. But I was traveling and I forgot to do it when I came back, which is why you didn't get one. I went to Greece for about 8-9 days, which was really nice. There are a few vlogs on the channel if you want to check that out. I did more or less keep track while I was there, but all of the money I spent there was coming out of my travel sinking fund, because I had saved up money to go, and I came back with about 500 of that and put it back into my travel sinking fund. So that is back in there. But I feel like it's been a while since I've seen you for this particularly, so let's talk about a few money things. I did change my allowances for this month because I had figured it out for this month when I got the money, because I had to figure out how much I was going to send home, but I hadn't accounted for the fact that some of the things that were technically coming out of my travel fund, I was going to be purchasing locally, and I hadn't really kept an amount for that. It's really easy for me to send money home. It's a little harder to bring money back. So I ended up making some purchases, and that meant that I had a little less money than I thought when I started this month. Now it all seems to be working out fine, but you will see a few of those changes when we get into the numbers. I think moving forward, my challenge is going to be a little bit just to rein the spending back in, because when I was on holiday, everything was coming out of that fund, and so I didn't mind if I was splurging, it didn't matter. I did do a bit of a redesign of my skincare recently so that I'd have a good lineup of like affordable products, because I did a little bit of research for the afternoon. I looked at some dermatologist reviews and I ordered a few things, and so this should be good moving forward, but it meant I had a little bit of extra spending in that regard, and you will see that in my budget. But I just don't want to fall into bad habits, really. I think it's very easy, one, with it being summer, so me having a lot more free time and a lot less schedule, but two, when you start achieving some of your goals, you get very motivated, but then after a little while, when you're just chugging along the way you should do, it can be a little hard to keep the momentum, because the urgency of whatever problem you were starting to solve starts to wane a little bit. And that's less stressful for you, but it also means that a lot of lifestyle creep can come into it. Sorry, my computer just made a noise if you caught it. So when I'm looking at my spending for the month and what I'm planning for the month, I just want to be careful. I got some nice things, I got some needed things. I did a little bit of redesigning this summer with some of my furniture and my house, but I don't want that to start to spiral into, well, I want this now. One habit I did put into place that I might have spoken to you about, I was talking about my credit score with you for a while. Sometimes it randomly goes up and sometimes it randomly drops, or it feels random. I had a small random drop very temporarily. I'm not sure why, but it did. But it's been holding at around 850 for a little while now. But I was starting to get to the point, because I cleared off the cards and I hadn't really used them for quite a while, I was struggling with how to keep them in use, because I was reaching the time where the credit providers, and looking at my score and building my score, was starting to say, well, we don't know how reliable you are with credit because we have no evidence of you making regular payments. So with that in mind, what I've tried to do is, whenever I've been making a purchase, not whenever, but with some of the purchases I make, I've decided to put them on the card and then go home and pay for them with the debit amount. I'm not buying things on card that I can't afford, But if I was going to pay with debit, a few of those payments I've decided to pay with credit. And then I got a notice a few days ago, because the credit report pulls like 6 weeks out of date, sometimes 8 weeks, around that range. And it was like, oh, your credit score has changed. I use ClearScore for mine. And I was like, oh God, why? What's happened? Because usually when it sends me an email saying that, it's dropped for some reason. And I'm like, but why though? And this time it was like looking bright. And I was like, what do you mean? Because I always considered like 850 to really be my max, because I don't have a house and I don't have a car payment, so I don't have a regular payment coming out of there. And it jumped the other day from 850 to 916. I was so surprised, but that's a nice score. I'm going to try and keep maintaining that. And I think just having regular payments onto the credit card that are showing being completely paid off just has improved my reliability a little bit more. Next time I go back to the UK, I might end up opening up possibly a new credit card just to increase the amount of credit I have available to me. I might see my credit score drop a little bit. I'm not planning on really using the card in any way, or I'd use it in the same way I'm using this one, where I just pay for something and then go and wipe the card. But I think just having a little more available to me would look better. I have a decent amount right now. I have just over 10,000 available on the card that I do have, but it's my only card, and if something happened with it, it would really impact my score. So I just want to diversify it a little bit. But I do have myself signed up for, they have like automatic limit increases, and I have myself signed up for it to automatically do that if they feel like they want to offer it to me, like to automatically accept. So that's also something to consider too. I think the only other money related thing, I meant to talk to you about this last time and I was so irritated. I shouldn't be, it doesn't actually impact me and it gives everyone else a chance, but I hurt myself trying to do this. I don't think I told you, but do you remember when I was trying to do the national insurance? Or maybe did I tell you this? If I did tell you this, sorry, I'm repeating myself. I don't remember now because it's been a while. When I was trying to pay off my national insurance, I really pushed myself because the deadline was either the end of last month or the end of the month before, but it was pretty soon. And to fill my national insurance record as much as I could, I owed them just under 5,000. It's like 4,700. And to pay that in a couple of months was quite a lot of pressure. And I managed it, but it was hard and I worked hard. I had originally had a plan to pay it off a bit slower and a bit more steadily so it didn't impact me as much. And I really moved things around to try and do that. And lo and behold, because the government service at HMRC can't handle how many people are calling up to do the same, they have extended the program by 2 whole years. I could have paid this off so well without any pressure. 2 more years they are giving them, and I'm so annoyed about it. Like, I know this doesn't really impact me. Like, I'm already done. I'm glad it's finished. I'm glad I don't have it as an ongoing concern. But man, I really did it the hardest possible way. And then they were like, oh, did you work to do that? Oh, never mind. Another 2 years. Thank you. But here's a reminder to anyone who needs to fill in gaps in their national insurance. Do it sooner rather than later, because the phone lines were going mental while I was trying to get what I was trying to call and sort it out. And towards the end of the deadline, it will do the same again. But anyway, I think like it all turned out for the best. I can't be too angry at it. And I'm glad other people get the opportunity if they maybe didn't have the money to do it now. But I was annoyed. And that's all I really have to talk to you about on this end of things anyway. I'm going to move over to my spreadsheet and let's take a look at what my budget ended up being and what my plans are moving forward and how I spent it. So this will kind of take the place of the 3 I usually do. I usually do a beginning, check-in, and then a closeout. I don't think there's going to be enough change to need a closeout really. I'm probably going to do maybe 1 more grocery shop. I might not even get that far. And nothing else is, I'm telling myself now, nothing else is going to be purchased. I think I got everything I needed to. So let's move on to that. So let's take a look right here. Initially, when I budgeted for this month, I was supposed to have 317 Omani Rial. But as I say, I made a few purchases on my local account for my traveling that I hadn't really budgeted for because I was expecting to do it all out of my home account. So I ended up beginning this month or this pay period with 275 Omani Rial instead. Now, I did a couple of things to try and make sure that I was still living within budget. If I really couldn't have cut anything down, then I was prepared to go to the ATM and take some extra money out. But it didn't seem like it was so much that I couldn't have cut down, so I wanted to give it a try. I'll go through any cuts I made as we go through the numbers. If we go down to my fixed bills, my home internet is still 37, and all of these were paid in full and didn't change. However, my home internet may actually be changing quite soon, which is pretty cool. I'm coming up to the end of my contract. Now, originally I had signed up for 2 years, or at least I thought, but it feels like for the first 4 or 5 months of this contract, I had nothing but problems. They couldn't sign me up to the extra free gift that came with the purchase of the contract, and that took a while to figure out. And then it turns out they couldn't sign me up because they had put me onto the wrong speed, and so I didn't qualify, even though I was paying for the higher speed. And then we had a few problems with service providing and when the guy was going to come and install the thing, and it wasn't a great start. It's been going reasonably smoothly once we got those problems ironed out, but it wasn't a good experience in the beginning of things. But it seems like now their ineptitude is actually going to serve me, because it looks like I was signed up for a 1-year contract instead of a 2. Because when I got the notice where it said, oh, your contract is going to renew on August 30th, I was like, hey, wait, does that mean I can change my level of service? Because right now I pay 37 Omani Rial, which is quite expensive. And that is just the cost of things, but it's expensive. But a few months ago, I got a text message saying, hey, we're putting you up to 200 gig. I actually paid for like 100, and then they put it up by 20 temporarily for whatever reason. And we're upgrading you for free. And I was like, okay, fine. Because I was paying as much as I pay and whatever. And I was on contract. So I was like, okay, extra speed. Turns out what they actually did is they added another tier to the program where the speed I had been on was now available for a cheaper price. So rather than putting down the price of my bill, they increased the speed of my service, so I'd be paying the same. Anyway, this is turning into a bit of a long story, but when my contract runs out a few days before, I actually went into the Arida store recently and checked this, and they said, oh, if you come in a few days before, we can just put you onto that lower tier. And so my bill will go down to, with tax, about 29. And I'm quite pleased about that. I'm hoping they don't give me any trouble with it, because frankly, I am sick of them saying, yes, I can do things, and then things not happening. But fingers crossed, that should mean this bill is coming down. My electricity was 20. I think I did end up spending a little bit more than that on my last bill. Oh yes, I ended up putting that extra 10 on, didn't I? I think that was it. But so far it's lasting. I'm going to see where I am on my bill after this, and I'm hoping 20 will cover me. My cleaner is still going to be 20 this month. She's made one visit. I've paid 10, but she will make another one before my next pay period. And my phone, I put 10 on, but this is another bill that I'm able to reduce. So I was looking at my usage, and most of the time I'm on Wi-Fi. I'm on Wi-Fi either at home or I'm on Wi-Fi at school. So the amount I'm actually using on my plan is very little. So I've lowered my plan now. Instead of it being 6.5 a month, it's going to be 3.5 a month. So that's pretty good as well. And I will probably top up next month just to give me a few like bill cycles already paid for. But that will be a reduction too, which I'm quite happy about. So now let's go on to variables. I did a big grocery shop when I came back from my holiday. The projected cost is still 120. I did recently change my diet. I've gone back onto a low carb, higher fat diet. So I'm buying more proteins, but I'm able to freeze them. They're lasting longer and I'm eating less. So overall, I don't think it's going to impact my grocery bill negatively. I might have to do one more grocery bill. I'm currently have used about 60 real of it. So this might actually end up being cheaper overall, but I don't want to commit to that anytime soon. We're going to do it for a few months and see how it goes, because you know what prices are like these days. But I chose not to cut down the grocery bill because generally speaking, I'm already pretty close usually to the edge. And so I didn't want to make myself struggle there. But I was a solid 30 or 40 short this month. So I went into transport and I cut that in half because I had 30 for transport. But because I was planning when I did this anyway to live a bit more frugally this month, I just don't think I'm going to be going out that much. And so I cut it to 15 and I've used 8. My school, I didn't budget anything for because I'm not in school right now. There was no need, and I can always budget into my next month if I need to get anything for that. Beauty and health was 25. I've spent 19.90 officially in the local account, but I have spent in the other account as well. So as I mentioned, I think in the intro, I redesigned some of my skincare, but I'll talk about that when we get to my home account. Misc Home, I've still got it at 10 because I ended up taking money out of my sinking funds for some things. I'm not using up as much of this local one, but I've spent about 3.5. Spending I have at 25. I've spent about 20, so we're nearly at the end of that, but I probably won't need it. And because I did buy quite a lot of clothes before I went on holiday, because I did Dubai and then I did Athens, so I was kind of buying summer clothes over that time, I decided just to cut the clothing allowance for this month, as that would be a good way to make up the deficit. So that was 25. 25 plus the 15 I saved in transport was more or less there. And that meant that my total budget I needed for this month was 282. I was still slightly over, but it was okay. I had a little bit of buffer in this account and it worked out. Let's head over to my UK account. So for the income, how I got to this figure, 2,480, was I sent all the money home beginning of last month. But then I figured out what my budget was and what I would have left and just took that as my payment. I was also expecting to get about 400 from YouTube. I do tend to underestimate YouTube because it's safer that way because the payment is variable. But I wasn't sure how many videos I would get out because I was preparing to travel and things like that. So my total income estimate for this month was going to be 2,880. However, I ended up being slightly over on the income. I had 2,523, but then I earned more in YouTube than I thought. I got a lot of videos out in the prior month, so I ended up getting paid just over 1,000 there. So let's go and see how I spent that. My emergency fund got 200 as normal. I am planning whenever I end up getting my bonus, it's probably going to go into the emergency fund because my next big money project is going to be fully funding this. So my balance in there right now is 3,000 and I'm pretty happy with that. I didn't budget for any other spending, but I did end up doing it. And this is in regards to my subscriptions. So I made a few changes. So I got an email saying my Spotify subscription was going to be going up, and literally it was going up by £1. It was not by a lot, but for me it just seemed to be the final straw, because if you look down here, Spotify is usually £10 and I like it being that round number. I can live with that, it's fine. Now I started with a student account on Spotify, so it was a bit sad to go up to the regular cost anyway, and now everything's increasing. So what I actually ended up doing was using my VPN in nefarious ways and paying £24 for an annual subscription to Spotify, which means that from next month, this cost can actually come out of my budget, which is really good. And that ended up being a cheaper way to do things. Now, something else I did, which I kind of wish I'd done this first because I maybe wouldn't have got the Spotify subscription. I got YouTube Premium, again, through loopholes. So my YouTube Premium subscription is going to be about £2 a month. Now, that means that I also get YouTube Music, which I didn't realize. I was looking more for having no ads and things. And had I tried YouTube Music first, I maybe wouldn't have gotten Spotify. But I've got them both now, and never mind. Because for half the price of my current £10 subscription, I'm now getting 2 services. So that is a change you are going to see next month. But for this month, I paid my £10 subscription. I paid my £3 creator support. I put my private pension in. I put that in a little bit later because I was waiting to get paid from YouTube, but that's fine. And I put 500 into my future fund. So subscriptions are currently unchanged, but that's what the extra cost in other spending is. It's going to replace one of my subscriptions. Okay, so let's go down to my sinking funds. There was a fair amount of movement in my sinking funds this month. For travel, I had taken out the 1,300, but I ended up bringing back 500 that I didn't spend, and I put 500 in. So that means I've got 1,000 in there right now, and that's 500 more than I thought I would spend, but because I had the extra YouTube money, I figured why not? I've done that because I'm not sure what my Christmas plans are. We have an October holiday this time around, and we will have a Christmas holiday. So I've got to figure out which one of those I'm going to travel on. But if I'm going to travel on either, I was going to need to build up that travel fund a little faster than I usually do. So I'm glad to have that extra money coming back into it. Tax was my usual 200, and so I've got 400 in there right now. My tax is actually fully funded through to next year, so I'm not too worried about it, but I just want to keep an eye on it for next time I have to make a payment. Home and tech was a busy one this month. I ended up, I think I told you, I replaced my dining table. I got a new cupboard. I did some furniture. I did some things. Now, because I did that last month, I was actually 96 over my sinking fund budget. And I like to keep about 300 in there. So what I did this month, I had the 100 I was usually going to put in. And then I put it up to 196 to make up that deficit. So that should have left me with 100 balance. But because I had extra money from YouTube, I actually put in 396, which again would have brought me up to the 300 balance. And that's the level I like the minimum to be. However, yesterday I did receive an order I'd made from Amazon.ae because I was having a problem with my charger on my laptop. I have a Surface Pro 6, but I don't have the official charger because I dropped it in my dog's water bowl when I was in the UK last, and it shorted. And that was a whole adventure in and of itself. But the replacement chargers that I've bought, some are good and some are not so good. But when you get one that isn't so good, you have a problem sometimes where it won't power the keyboard correctly and your mouse will just randomly stop working. And it's really frustrating. And I just got a particularly bad one this time around and I didn't want to keep using it. So I paid £20. I got a better quality one. And so far it's been working really well and the trackpad hasn't cut out at any point. So I'm pleased with that, but it means that instead of being at 300, the balance is currently at 280. I'm going to put an extra 20 into that next month to even that out. Medical, I put 50 in, so it's currently sitting at 550. It should have been sitting at 600, and this is where I think I was just playing games with myself a little bit, if we're completely honest. I, as I say, redesigned my skincare routine, and I bought one using my travel money when I was in the airport and just got something for the month, which is lovely and I'm enjoying it. But I wanted a routine I could follow more long term that would be affordable, and I ended up ordering some products. I don't have a health and beauty section in this part of my budget because I tend to do all my purchasing with my Omani side. But in this case, I bought it with my card and ordered it in. So I ended up spending £50 on that. And medical was the only fund I had that was somewhat close. I realized it wasn't really a medical thing, but there we are. However, I didn't feel too bad about it because it should mean my beauty and health is covered for next month. So that section of my budget shouldn't be too bad. And two, my minimum for my medical is actually 500. So we were a little bit over where the sinking fund needed to be. I am probably going to build it up to 1,000, but we weren't urgent on that. So I just got the 50 out of there.
Gifts and Christmas got 42 because it rounded it up to a nice round 300, and that tends to be where I want that sinking fund to be, so I didn't put as much in it this time. And hair got 46 to round it up to 100 because my OCD can't stand having odd bits of numbers on the end.
And that is everything. Thank you so much for being here. I probably won't do a closeout. I think there won't be enough change in my budget for it to matter. I'm probably going to do one more grocery shop, but I'm pretty well sourced right now because I did a really big grocery shop the first time, and I haven't gone through all that stuff yet. Like right after I got back from travel, I did a big one, and I'm doing all right for supplies right now, and I don't foresee anything else changing. Next month I might be getting a bonus. If I do, I'll talk to you about that. If not, it will be the month after. I'm definitely getting it, but I'm not sure what month it's going in because I was told September, and sometimes September is shorthand for the first paycheck you get in the new school year, and sometimes September can mean like the September to October paycheck because, like I said, mid-month payment. So I'm really not sure at the moment, but I will let you know. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.